Have you ever kissed Jay-Z romantically?
No. No, I can't answer that.
What Blu Cantrell never revealed about Jay-Z could reshape public perception of both artists forever. This is a call to revisit the silence surrounding a long-standing rumor. For years, whispers have circulated in hip-hop about a hidden relationship, an alleged pregnancy, and a silence many believe wasn't by choice. The question is, what really happened? Was Blu Cantrell pushed out to safeguard the Carter brand? And could it be possible that Blue Ivy, Jay-Z's daughter with Beyonce, is not Beyonce's biological child?
Jay-Z worked very hard to erase you and me.
This dives into one of the most controversial theories in music. By the end, the name Blue might carry a very different meaning. Before the controversy, Blu Cantrell, born Tiffany Cobb, was already rising fast. She had the voice, the stage presence, and the industry backing. After years of singing backup for major artists like Diddy, she launched in 2001 with her debut album So Blue, which took off instantly. Her breakout single, Hit 'em Up Style, Oops, was everywhere, pushing her into the mainstream spotlight. The album went gold within 2 weeks, cracked the Billboard 200, and earned 2 Grammy nominations. With rising fame, press appearances, and headline tours, she became a fixture alongside Ashanti, Monica, and Maya. But just as her career reached new heights, things changed. Not because of sales or sound, but because of an alleged connection to Jay-Z. Sources claimed the two grew close. Industry insiders reported sightings at events, vacations, and private functions, fueling speculation that something deeper was happening behind the scenes. Events thrown by industry giants like Diddy fueled rumors of a secret romance. One moment stood out. During an on-air interview, Wendy Williams asked Blu Cantrell if she had ever kissed Jay-Z. Blu's response? A nervous laugh, no clear denial, no clarification, just a smile that left more questions than answers.
Wow, he had another woman that was
and
pregnant that was about to come out with her pregnancy around the same time.
The islands?
Something like that.
That moment sparked headlines. Rather than ending the speculation, Blu's silence amplified it. This unfolded as Beyonce launched her solo career, and if the rumors are true, Jay-Z stood between two ascending stars, one outspoken like Blu, the other younger, strategic, and image-focused like Beyonce. In that same Wendy Williams interview, Blu hinted Jay-Z preferred Beyonce, not for her talent, but for being younger and more controllable. At the time, most dismissed it as shade, but now it reads more like a red flag. A voice pushed aside, replaced, and ignored. Blu later accused Beyonce of imitating her look and sound. Not long after, her momentum collapsed. Bookings dried up. Arista Records reportedly declined to renew her contract. Radio play faded. Headlines moved on. Within months, Blu Cantrell, once one of R&B's most promising names, disappeared. Was it simply the industry's brutal cycle, or was her silence forced? According to outspoken voices like Jaguar Wright, who has detailed industry control and abuse, the answer is more than clear.
Other mistress that has a love child with Jay-Z, allegedly. I didn't work on that story, but the reporters that did reported that, she was paid very well to basically.
Jaguar Wright has long insisted that Blu Cantrell's disappearance wasn't accidental. She alleged that Jay-Z and Beyonce used their industry power to blacklist Blu, and that naming their daughter Blue Ivy was not coincidence, but calculated erasure. Jay-Z worked very hard to erase you and me, she once claimed. By 2013, Blu tried to mount a comeback, announcing a third album and calling herself a free agent. But no singles, no videos, no momentum ever surfaced. Then in 2014, headlines exploded when Blu was found barefoot in Santa Monica, reportedly yelling about being poisoned with gas. She was hospitalized and quickly labeled unstable by the media. But was this truly a breakdown or a desperate escape, one she was never supposed to survive? The internet theory that Blu Cantrell is the biological mother of Blue Ivy Carter may sound far-fetched until you start connecting the timeline. Then it feels less random and more deliberate. Blu Cantrell's career came to a hard stop around 2004. shortly after her second album. No more music, appearances, or coverage. By 2012, Beyoncé gives birth to Blue Ivy Carter, while Blu Cantrell's name is nowhere to be found in the music industry.
Jay-Z worked very hard to erase you and me, just like he did L, just like he did his relationship with R. Kelly, just like he did his relationship with Aaliyah. Blue, it's time to...
The name Blue sparked immediate speculation. Was it about Jay-Z's well-known attachment to the color, or something far more personal? Theories spread quickly. Some fans claim the name Blue was a concealed reference to Blu Cantrell, and it doesn't end there. This theory points to a much darker claim, that Blu Cantrell was allegedly forced into silence. The belief is that she either surrendered a child under pressure or was forced to terminate a pregnancy. Supporters of the theory often point to Beyoncé's 2011 interview with the Australian talk show Sunday Night. In that now viral moment, Beyoncé's belly appeared to fold unnaturally as she leaned forward, sparking speculation she was wearing a prosthetic belly and secretly using a surrogate. When aligned with Blu Cantrell's disappearance from the public eye, the timeline appears too coincidental for some observers. If a surrogate was used, questions arise. Who was the biological mother? Was Blu Cantrell involved, and was her silence enforced? Jaguar Wright, known for publicly confronting industry figures, has repeatedly accused powerful entities of rewriting history. She claimed Blu Cantrell was erased, silenced, and strategically removed from competition. Wright also criticized the naming of Blue Ivy, suggesting it was intentionally symbolic. Allegedly, when Beyoncé learned of Blu Cantrell's pregnancy, she reacted with panic. Claims emerged that Blue was reportedly poisoned and pressured into terminating the pregnancy. Some say this moment, not industry setbacks, was what shattered her. Blu Cantrell's mental health incident in 2014, when she was seen barefoot and shouting about being poisoned, has drawn comparisons to other celebrities who were dismissed as unstable after speaking out. Figures like Britney Spears, Martin Lawrence, and Kanye West.
The first Blue. Not they daughter Blue. Blu Cantrell.
This follows a familiar industry playbook. When someone becomes inconvenient, they're discredited, then erased entirely. That's what makes the Blue Ivy theory more difficult to dismiss, even for those who believe Beyoncé is the biological mother. The secrecy, legal protections, and tightly managed branding all add layers of suspicion. If Blu Cantrell had a child with Jay-Z, the fallout could have been catastrophic for the Carter brand. It would undermine not just personal reputations, but a billion-dollar empire built on image, loyalty, and unity. Jay-Z would be cast as a man who hid an affair and possibly a child. Beyoncé could be accused of knowingly helping to cover up or recast that reality. And Blu Cantrell, if her story were true, would transform from a sidelined artist into the missing link in one of music's most protected narratives. Yet she never publicly claimed to have had a child. She never released baby photos, never gave names, never pointed fingers. She simply vanished. Her career didn't gradually decline, it evaporated. One minute she was a chart-topping artist, the next she was gone. And when you examine the who and how behind that sudden disappearance, a troubling pattern emerges. Back in 2003, Blue released her second album, Bittersweet. The album earned a Grammy nomination, featured strong vocals, and was well received by fans. But the industry reaction was noticeably muted. Promotion was minimal, tours were shortened, and unlike Beyoncé, whose solo career was being meticulously elevated, Blue appeared to be strategically sidelined. Her contract with Arista Records wasn't renewed, and she was pushed out of the spotlight with little explanation. No explanation, no warning, just gone. That sudden silence raised questions across the industry. Then came the comparisons and rising accusations. Blu Cantrell alleged that Beyoncé wasn't simply outshining her, she was copying her. Take Blue's video for Roundup, a Western-inspired visual packed with desert scenery, bold wardrobe choices, and gritty storytelling. Shortly after, Beyoncé and Jay-Z released 03 Bonnie and Clyde, a video with strikingly similar visuals and tone. Then came the Sean Paul collaboration issue. Blu's hit Breathe became one of her biggest records, anchored by a Caribbean rhythm and Sean Paul's signature vocals. Soon after, Beyoncé appeared in a similar sonic space. For Blu, this wasn't a coincidence. It felt deliberate, like her blueprint was being used elsewhere. While Beyoncé's career advanced with refined sound, elevated visuals, and precisely timed releases, Blu saw her own momentum stall. Budgets were cut, promotional efforts vanished, and her name was slowly excluded from mainstream coverage. Blu responded publicly. In one interview with The Guardian, she didn't hold back. When asked about Beyoncé, she said bluntly, "I'm an adult. She's younger. If she's doing what you're saying, that's immature." Blu warned that targeting her would be the wrong move. Then she added, "If you have issues with your man, address it with him. Don't take it out on the woman." To fans observing closely, it was a clear message. Blu had reached her limit. She was openly criticizing Beyoncé and indirectly challenging Jay-Z's role in the situation. But almost immediately after that moment of defiance, Blu Cantrell vanished. No new projects, no tour, no third album. Silence fell right after she spoke out. It's a clear formula. Jaguar Wright, a former neo-soul singer turned whistleblower, has spoken frequently about what she describes as strategic erasure in the music industry. According to her, artists who defy the system or become too much of a threat are intentionally blackballed. And she believes that's precisely what happened to Blu Cantrell. This wasn't simply a case of music competition. This was about narrative control. If Blu and Jay-Z were ever involved romantically, possibly involving a pregnancy, then removing her from the spotlight wasn't about sales or fame. It was about burying a narrative that could disrupt an empire. And this pattern didn't stop with Blu. Other prominent R&B artists, Maya, Monica, even Aaliyah, were rising forces before Beyoncé's solo ascent. Maya transitioned from major tours and awards to indie performances. Monica's mainstream support dwindled despite consistent talent. Aaliyah, transitioning into Hollywood, died tragically in 2001, just as Destiny's Child was poised to dominate globally. Some observers argue these events are more than coincidence, they're systemic. By 2004, Jay-Z had become president of Def Jam, a powerful executive role. Around the same time, Blu Cantrell's label contract was quietly terminated. Years later, Blu revealed that during her negotiations, she was steered toward using a lawyer who also worked for the label, a clear conflict of interest. Blu said if she had known, she would have hired independent counsel. Instead, she lost control of her masters, received limited royalties, and was edged out with little explanation. When she finally tried to push back, the support vanished. The industry stopped answering. Then came the final breaking point, her 2014 public episode. By 2014, Blu Cantrell had vanished from the music industry. No third album, no tours, and almost no interviews. Audiences who once saw her dominate the charts were left with questions, until suddenly her name returned to headlines. But it wasn't for music or a long-awaited comeback. Instead, she was found barefoot, running through the streets of Santa Monica at 2 a.m., shouting that someone was trying to poison her with gas. Authorities detained her and placed her under psychological evaluation. Overnight, Blu became a tabloid story, a cautionary example of a singer unraveling under pressure. The media quickly labeled her unstable, unhinged, and finished, but some observers noticed a familiar pattern. It echoed other celebrity episodes marked by confusion and controversy. In 1996, Martin Lawrence was seen walking into traffic, yelling about people trying to kill him. In 2016, Kanye West was hospitalized after making claims on stage about industry elites. Britney Spears endured years of scrutiny after a highly publicized breakdown connected to strict legal control. In each case, a recurring pattern emerged. When stars became too outspoken or no longer fit the industry's narrative, they were labeled as mentally unstable. Blu's story followed that same trajectory, but years later, she would begin speaking out, reframing the 2014 incident entirely. According to Blu, the breakdown was not random. It was the result of long-term trauma tied to industry betrayal. She alleged that she wasn't simply forgotten, she was deliberately erased. Worse, she claimed that those tasked with guiding her career had instead taken advantage of her trust. Blu said that during her time at Arista Records, the attorney assigned to help her navigate contract negotiations was also employed by the label, a clear conflict of interest that left her powerless. Blu Cantrell's 2014 incident seems less like a breakdown and more like the last attempt of someone silenced by the industry. With no label, no backing, and no media protection, she was branded unstable. The narrative moved on, conveniently avoiding responsibility for what had happened to her. She wasn't alone. As Beyoncé's solo career gained momentum, other rising R&B talents began to vanish, not fade gradually, but disappear without resolution. When these stories are compared side by side, a pattern begins to emerge. Mia dominated charts in the late 90s and early 2000s. She had Grammy wins, label support, and even appeared on major Jay-Z tracks. But as Beyoncé launched her solo career, Mia's mainstream presence declined sharply. She was steered toward independent labels, faced distribution challenges, and had to rebuild from the ground up. Years later, Mia alluded to being blackballed, suggesting industry politics played a major role in her sudden decline. Then came Aaliyah, arguably the most promising R&B artist of her generation. Before Beyoncé's rise, Aaliyah was positioned to lead both R&B and pop. Aaliyah had already begun her transition into film. She was securing major Hollywood roles, releasing new music, and becoming a red carpet staple. But in 2001, just as Destiny's Child prepared for its final run and Beyoncé's solo career began taking shape, Aaliyah died in a tragic plane crash. Some fans still question the timing, not with wild conspiracy, but from a cultural lens. Aaliyah was the last major R&B figure operating in Beyoncé's lane. After her death, the landscape changed and Beyoncé ascended without direct competition at her level. Which brings us back to Blu Cantrell. What if her disappearance wasn't an isolated incident, but the first chapter in a much larger playbook? A warning, a test case, a talented woman with all the tools, connection, success, and visibility, who was suddenly cut off. The music industry has operated this way before, and it likely will again. But this time, the silence is cracking. Whistleblowers are speaking up. Interviews that were once buried are resurfacing, and documents long sealed are beginning to leak. If Blu Cantrell was truly erased, the industry might already have its next target. Thanks for watching. If you want to keep uncovering the hidden stories behind the headlines, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. You won't want to miss what's coming next.